The galaxy is vast and merciless, a labyrinth of stars and shadows where survival often depends on cruelty. Among its most feared denizens are the galactic assassins, a team of interstellar enforcers wielding weapons that could collapse civilizations. Their leader, Drex, a towering figure with obsidian armor and a voice like grinding stone, surveyed the holographic projection of Earth. His squad stood behind him, a mix of brutal efficiency and unrelenting ambition. "We eliminate the target, retrieve the artifact, and leave no witnesses," Drex commanded, his words sharp and unyielding. The target, according to the intelligence gleaned from a stolen cosmic database, was said to possess dormant energy capable of upsetting the galactic balance. Earth, a backwater planet with primitive defenses, was little more than an afterthought to the assassins. The sun was setting over a quiet Midwestern town. Laughter echoed from a field where a young boy, no older than 8, played with his dog. The boy, named Caleb, had an infectious joy that lit up everything around him. Oblivious to the danger descending from the heavens, he tossed a ball toward the horizon as his canine companion eagerly chased after it. Above, the assassin's ship cut through the atmosphere like a shard of black glass. Cloaked in an aura of invisibility, it hovered silently over the field. Inside, Drex observed the boy through a shimmering hologram. "This is the target," sneered Vark, a sinewy alien with an arsenal of cybernetic enhancements. "He's a child." "The readings don't lie," Drex growled, silencing any dissent. "The energy signature matches. We execute the mission." Caleb noticed the shadow too late. A single, soundless beam descended from the ship, disintegrating the ball midair. Confused, he looked up. What followed was a flash of light, an explosion of heat, and the absence of everything he'd known. The assassins touched down moments later, scanning the smoldering ground. Drex knelt beside the boy's remains, his scanners confirming the kill. Target neutralized. Extracting DNA for confirmation. Unknown to them, this act of violence had stirred forces far greater than they could comprehend. Miles away, a man was fixing his truck outside a modest cabin. His name was Gabriel, a quiet, solitary figure with calloused hands and a haunted past. For years, he had tried to bury the darker side of his existence, retreating into the anonymity of small-town life to raise his son in peace. When the sky darkened and the air filled with the acrid scent of ozone, Gabriel's instinct screamed. Dropping his wrench, he sprinted toward the field, his heart pounding like a war drum. He found Caleb's dog first, whimpering by the edge of a blackened crater. Then he saw the truth, a sight that shattered his world. Caleb's charred belongings lay scattered, and his son's laughter was gone forever. Something ancient stirred within Gabriel. His grief gave way to an inferno of rage, igniting a force he had long suppressed. Flames licked at his skin, but they did not burn. Instead, they transformed him. His flesh peeled away, replaced by a blazing skull. His eyes burned with hellfire. He was a ghost rider once more, an agent of vengeance bound by a curse as old as time. Through the haze of his transformation, Gabriel saw the assassin's footprints, faint but glowing with residual energy. Without hesitation, he mounted his spectral motorcycle, a machine forged from infernal steel. Its wheels ignited, and with a deafening roar, he tore across the landscape, following the trail into the sky. Back aboard their ship, the assassins reviewed their mission data. Drex felt a momentary flicker of unease, a sense that they were being watched. Before he could speak, alarms blared. "Energy anomaly approaching fast," barked Zarn, the ship's navigator. The Ghost Rider appeared like a meteor, crashing onto the ship's hull in a storm of fire. His chains, glowing with the heat of vengeance, coiled and struck like living serpents, tearing through the ship's defenses. Inside, chaos erupted. "What is that thing?" Vark shouted, firing wildly as the hull buckled. "It's not possible," Drex muttered, his confidence cracking for the first time. The Ghost Rider broke through the ship's core, his flaming skull illuminating the terrified faces of the assassins. He said nothing, but the silence spoke volumes, a promise of retribution. As Drex raised his weapon, Gabriel's voice, deep and otherworldly, echoed through the chamber. "You killed an innocent child," he growled, his pen and stare locking onto Drex. "Now, feel the weight of every sin you've committed." Drex collapsed, screaming as the Ghost Rider unleashed the full fury of his curse. Around him, the ship disintegrated, its crew reduced to ash. Gabriel stood alone in the wreckage, his vengeance momentarily sated. But as the flames subsided and his human form returned, he dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by loss. The field was silent once more, save for the crackle of dying embers. Gabriel cradled the fragments of his son's toy, vowing that no force in the galaxy would escape his wrath. Far above, the stars burned cold and indifferent, unaware of the storm that had just been unleashed among them. The burning wreckage of the assassin's ship lay scattered across the barren landscape, glowing embers lighting the night like dying stars. Gabriel stood at the center of it all, his chest heaving with the aftermath of his transformation. The searing rage that had fueled him moments ago was now a simmering ember, though its heat was far from extinguished. He looked down at his hands, blackened, skeletal, and flickering with traces of hellfire. The chains coiled around his wrists twitched as if alive, pulsing with energy that hummed deep in his bones. The Ghost Rider was no longer a dormant specter, but a roaring inferno. And Gabriel, grieving father and reluctant vessel of vengeance, was now bound to its relentless will. The faint glow of alien technology caught Gabriel's eye. Among the wreckage was a fractured hollow projector, its image sputtering with static. He knelt, his fiery skull casting an eerie light on the device. A holographic map flickered into view, displaying a network of star systems and a pulsating red marker. The assassin's true base of operations. "This isn't over," Gabriel growled, his voice echoing with the dual timbre of mortal grief and spectral fury. He clenched his fist, and the hollow projector disintegrated under the force of his grip. Turning to his spectral bike, now a blazing engine of destruction, Gabriel mounted it without hesitation. The bike roared to life, its tires igniting trails of hellfire as he tore through the atmosphere and ascended into the cold void of space. The rider's presence in the cosmic expanse was a paradox, a creature of fire and fury navigating the silent abyss. His chains crackled and whipped through the vacuum, and his skeletal form glowed like a beacon of vengeance. As he sped toward the assassin's base, fragments of memories surfaced, each one more painful than the last. He saw Caleb's laughter, the way his son's small hand had fit perfectly in his own. He remembered the promise he had made to keep him safe. That promise was broken, and now there was only one way to atone, by ensuring no other innocent suffered the same fate. The rider's journey led him to a desolate asteroid belt orbiting a dying star. Hidden among the floating debris was the assassin's base, a fortress of black metal and jagged spires. Its defenses bristled with turrets and energy shields, an impenetrable bastion to all but the most determined. Gabriel was more than determined. He was unstoppable. As he approached, the base's automated systems activated, sending a swarm of drones to intercept him. The Ghost Rider met them head-on, his chains slicing through their metal hulls with ease. Explosions lit the void, but Gabriel pressed on, his focus unshaken. The defenses escalated, firing beams of energy that could vaporize ships. Gabriel's bike weaved through them with supernatural agility, his hellfire aura absorbing the attacks. With a roar, he unleashed his own offensive, hurling his chains toward the base's shield generator. The chains wrapped around the structure, glowing brighter as hellfire surged through them. The shield collapsed in a cascade of sparks, and Gabriel plunged toward the fortress. Inside, the assassins were scrambling. Drex's second-in-command, Karoth, barked orders to his subordinates. "Seal the inner chambers. Prepare the heavy artillery." The Ghost Rider breached the fortress with explosive force, his bike crashing through the walls in a blaze of fire. He dismounted, his flaming chain spinning like a vortex of destruction. The assassins opened fire, their weapons discharging plasma bolts and kinetic rounds. None of it mattered. The Ghost Rider was an unstoppable force, every attack feeding the inferno within him. One by one, the assassins fell. Gabriel's movements were precise and merciless, each swing of his chain extinguishing another life. When Koroth attempted to flank him, Gabriel turned and locked eyes with the alien. "Look into my eyes," he commanded, his voice resonating with unholy power. Koroth froze, unable to resist the pull of the Ghost Rider's penance stare. The memories of every atrocity Koroth had committed flooded back to him, magnified 1,000-fold. His screams echoed through the fortress as he collapsed, his soul consumed by the weight of his sins. Gabriel advanced deeper into the base, following the faint traces of Drex's energy signature. The walls were lined with trophies of past conquests, artifacts from countless worlds, symbols of the assassin's unchecked reign of terror. Among them was something that made Gabriel pause, a small, glass capsule containing a fragment of Caleb's DNA. His skeletal hand trembled as he picked up the capsule. The sight of it reignited his fury, but it also fueled his determination. Drex would pay. In the central chamber, Drex awaited him. The leader of the assassins stood tall, his armor repaired and his weapon, a massive plasma scythe, crackling with energy. "You've caused enough chaos, Spectre," Drex snarled. "This ends now." Gabriel stepped forward, his chains rattling ominously. "You killed my son. You burned my world. This only ends with your judgment." The two clashed, hellfire meeting plasma in a battle that shook the fortress to its core. Drex was a formidable opponent, his strength and precision honed over decades. But Gabriel was no longer bound by mortal limits. His chains burned with righteous fury, and every strike carried the weight of his vengeance. The fight culminated in a final, devastating blow. Gabriel's chains coiled around Drex, immobilizing him. The assassin struggled, but it was futile. "Feel the pain of every soul you've damned," Gabriel intoned, unleashing the full force of his penance stare. Drex's screams filled the chamber as his sins consumed him. When it was over, nothing remained of the assassin but ashes. Gabriel stood amidst the destruction, the echoes of battle fading into silence. He looked at the fragment of Caleb's DNA in his hand, the weight of his loss settling over him once more. His bike roared to life, and he ascended from the fortress, leaving the ruins behind. As he sped through the void, he knew his mission was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and there were more like Drex out there, more who preyed on the innocent. Gabriel, the Ghost Rider, would find them. The cold void of space seemed still, but Gabriel knew better. Beneath its vast silence, the universe teemed with chaos and violence. The galactic assassins were gone, their base reduced to smoldering debris, but their reach extended far beyond a single fortress. Drex had been but one piece of a larger, insidious network, a syndicate that thrived on suffering and conquest. Gabriel's mission, driven by the searing memory of Caleb, was far from over. The Ghost Rider's spectral bike roared as it cut through the starlit expanse, its hellfire leaving a trail of glowing embers in its wake. The fragment of Caleb's DNA remained secured in a compartment on the bike, a painful reminder of why he couldn't stop. Ahead lay his next destination, a sprawling, labyrinthine station orbiting a dying red star. It was the hub of the assassins' operations, a fortress where their remaining leaders plotted in secret. Gabriel approached the station cautiously. Unlike the asteroid base, this fortress was alive with activity. Ships patrolled the perimeter, and the faint glow of energy shields rippled like a web of light around its structure. The Ghost Rider slowed his advance, studying the defenses. His hellfire burned hotter in his veins, a primal force urging him forward. As he neared the outer defenses, the station's turrets activated, their barrels swiveling toward the intruder. Without hesitation, Gabriel accelerated, weaving through a hail of plasma bolts. His chains lashed out, striking turrets with precision, each impact detonating in bursts of fire and molten metal. The commotion drew the attention of the station's command center. Inside, Zorik, a towering reptilian alien with crimson scales and a voice like grinding stone, watched the carnage unfold on his monitors. "What is that thing?" one of his subordinates asked, panic creeping into his tone. "The remnants of Drex's failure," Zorik growled. "But it is still mortal. Ready the inner defenses." Gabriel breached the station's outer hull, his bike carving through layers of metal and energy fields like a blade through paper. He dismounted in a wide, dimly lit corridor, his skeletal form casting long, flickering shadows. The air was thick with tension, every surface humming with latent energy. The first wave of defenders arrived. Elite mercenaries clad in high-tech armor, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Gabriel stood motionless, his chains rattling like a harbinger of doom. "You can't stop this," one of them called out, his voice faltering. "I'm not here to stop it," Gabriel replied, his voice a chilling echo. "I'm here to end it." He moved like a storm. The chain struck with blinding speed, slicing through armor and flesh alike. Hellfire erupted from his every movement, engulfing the corridor in a blazing inferno. The mercenaries fell one by one, their screams lost in the roar of the flames. Gabriel pressed deeper into the station, following the faint energy signature of Zorik. The corridors twisted and branched, but his hellfire illuminated the way, burning through every obstacle in his path. As he approached the command center, he encountered a massive, reinforced door. Zorik's voice echoed through an intercom. "Ghost Rider, you've proven yourself formidable, but you will not reach me. Turn back now, and I may grant you mercy." Gabriel stepped closer, his chains glowing with molten heat. "Mercy? You think you're in a position to bargain with me?" He swung his chains, their impact reducing the door to molten slag. Inside, Zorik stood surrounded by holographic displays and an array of advanced weaponry. His crimson scales shimmered with an otherworldly glow as he hefted a massive energy blade. "You think you can judge me?" Zorik snarled, his eyes narrowing. "I am a conqueror. The galaxy bends to my will." Gabriel stepped forward, his flames casting an eerie light across the chamber. "The galaxy may fear you, but I am something far worse. I am vengeance, and I've come for you." The two clashed, fire meeting energy in a blinding display of power. Zorik's blade hummed with destructive force, but Gabriel's chains burned with a fury that transcended mortal understanding. Each strike shook the chamber, walls cracking under the strain of their battle. Zorik fought with calculated precision, using his strength and agility to counter Gabriel's relentless assault. But Gabriel's determination was unyielding. He was no longer a man bound by fear or doubt. He was a Ghost Rider, an instrument of retribution. The battle reached its crescendo when Gabriel wrapped his chains around Zorik's blade, shattering it in an explosion of energy. Zorik staggered, his confidence faltering as he faced the rider's unrelenting gaze. "Look into my eyes," Gabriel commanded, his voice reverberating with unholy power. Zorik resisted, but the pull of the Ghost Rider's penance stare was irresistible. His sins, decades of cruelty and domination, flooded back to him, each one a dagger to his soul. He fell to his knees, his screams echoing through the chamber as his mind unraveled under the weight of his guilt. When it was over, Zorik was nothing more than a lifeless husk. Gabriel stood over him, his flames dimming as the battle's fury subsided. Around him, the station shuddered, its systems failing in the wake of their conflict. Gabriel retrieved a fragment of Caleb's DNA from his bike, holding it close as he made his way back to the docking bay. The station's self-destruct sequence activated, and alarms blared throughout the corridors. Gabriel mounted his bike, the infernal engine roaring to life. He sped through the collapsing structure, flames trailing behind him as he escaped into the void. The station erupted in a brilliant explosion, its light briefly illuminating the endless darkness. Gabriel slowed, the silence of space enveloping him once more. He held the fragment tightly, his skeletal fingers trembling. Caleb's memory burned brighter than ever, a constant reminder of the innocence he had lost. The galaxy was vast, and its darkness seemed infinite. But Gabriel knew his purpose now. He was a ghost rider, a harbinger of vengeance and cosmic justice. Wherever there was evil, he would find it. With a final roar, his bike sped into the starry expanse, its flames a beacon against the void.